How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys Alex and Ryan. So a nice little walk-off win yesterday, getting back on the win column after a difficult series against the Baltimore Orioles. But I know the game here is in about an hour. We're going to kind of talk about a different player entirely than anything that's relevant to today's game. But I think you guys will appreciate this because without Garrett Cole, the Yankees have had to lean on some of their other starting pitchers. And of course, Rodon, Cortez, Clark Schmidt, Marcus Stroman, all have had their ups and downs. But one guy who's really had mostly ups is Luis Gil. And Luis Gil, guys, is a 25-year-old pitcher who has the upside to be a number 2 in this league, in my opinion. I think, maybe, Ryan, you think he could be an ace. This dude, as long as he can just throw strikes, you can't touch him. His fastball is one of the best on this team. As long as he's throwing it relatively near the strike zone, opposing batters have no idea where it's going. It's a ridiculous pitch. He has really solid supplementary pitches as well. We're going to break down really what makes Luis Gil go, what makes his wheels turn, but also the mindset that he has. I think it was Oswaldo Cabrera the other day said that when they were on the way to Baltimore, Luis Gil, usually joking and cracking jokes and having fun, was locked in, just staring, straight ahead. He was locked in. He ends up going out there, didn't give up a single run. I think he gave up 1 hit, 2 hits over 6 innings. He was electric. So, Yankees may have found themselves finally seeing the peak potential of Luis Gil. Maybe not even the peak just yet. But after Tommy John surgery, a couple years of injury, he's finally coming around. We're excited to break it down, Ryan. Before we do, how you do today, my friend?
I'm doing great. As you mentioned, Luis Gil, the way he's been pitching lately. And, I took this excerpt from an article by Gary Phillips, who's, again, on Fireside Yankees. He is with the New York Daily News, covers the Yankees there. And it was he talked to Matt Blake, or I think it was Luis Gil or Aaron Boone, one of the three. And one of them mentioned that Blake had worked with Gil on, keeping his shoulders in line. And since that quote dropped, since that little situation, Luis Gil has 20 strikeouts to 6 walks, a 2.65 ERA, a 3.37 FIP, again, only an 8.7% walk rate. That's huge. If Luis Gil, and I'm not saying he's going to do this, but if he does, if he walks 8.7% of batters faced for any prolonged stretch of time, the ERA is going to start with a 2. I'm just putting that out there. That ERA will start with 2, a dose. That's great. And look, his stuff is electric, as you mentioned. His stuff hits hard, man. He's got a power fastball, of course. He's got that excellence. Change up the slider. Everything is just he's just got a nasty array of pitches. His stuff hits harder than Kendrick Lamar's bars from last night. He's just balling right now. And as you mentioned, the potential Luis Gil has to be a really damn good starter in this league. He's pitched deep into games in each of these starts. I know even the Brewers start, we got touched up. They brutalized him in that start. 2 home runs, 5 runs, 7 hits. He still pitched into the 5th inning. Or he actually started the 6th inning of that game. Kind of the concern I had with Luis Gil was that he wasn't going to be able to pitch deep enough into games, but he's got 31 innings pitched in 6 starts. He's averaging a little bit over 5 innings a start, a 3.19 ERA. You would take that any day of the week. It's simply that's just, you would take that any day of the week. The Yankees, they clearly identified that his stuff was great. I don't think anybody had questions about his stuff. It was just a matter of okay, are the Yankees going to be able to get him to throw enough strikes? Is his stuff going to play at the level it should? Is he going to stay healthy? All of these question marks. And he's checked off every box. He's really impressed me. He's just been dominant. And, throughout his Major League career, this is a consistent trend. He has 13 starts now with a 3.50 ERA. I feel like that has to account for something, right? It has to account for something that he's thrown 64 1/3 innings with 13 starts, and his ERA is 3.5. It's an above average ERA, a 3.79 FIP. I think these things matter. I think these things are these are relevant pieces of data. It doesn't get barreled, doesn't get hit hard, plenty of whiffs, all that stuff. And look, I'm not sitting here trying to say that Luis Gil's an ace. I think an ace, I think I'm very strict with that label. I think that label should only be reserved for really top 10 pitchers in baseball. I know everybody says, well, there are 30 aces because there are 30 teams. No, there are not. There's not 30 people like Garrett Cole. There are not 30 people like Zach Wheeler, like Corbin Burns, whoever it may be. There are maybe 6 or 7 if we're being generous here, right? A couple of them are on the IL, whatever it may be. But yeah, Luis Gil is certainly in that echelon of pitchers where it's okay, the talent is clearly a step above everybody else. 119 stuff plus, that's gross. Can he find a way to just become consistent, right? Can he consistently walk, I'd even say 10% of batters faced? If he's striking out 30%, walking 10%, that's a 20% strikeout to walk rate. His ERA will be good. He's not giving up damage contact I think he starts, I believe he starts tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, or I think he starts the third game, or no, excuse me, I think he starts next week, maybe not tomorrow, but, he's got a chance here to really go on a run to build up his confidence, and honestly, we kind of look at him as the guy who gets pushed out of rotation. I want Luis Gil to force somebody else to step the hell up. You know what I mean? I like this idea that players that we kind of penciled in to stay in the lineup all year or the rotation, that if they struggle, their jobs aren't secure. Last year, there was no, okay, you just sit Stanton if he's struggling. Because who are you going to sit him for? Willie Calhoun? Like Jake Bowers? It really wasn't very good. Even for, let's say LeMahieu, like if he struggles, it's like, okay, well, what do you bench him for? You don't have a third baseman, right? Like you just had such a lack of depth everywhere that you couldn't just go, this guy isn't playing well, he's got to ride the pine, we've got a better option ahead of him. I think I like this idea of some of these younger players stepping up and going, okay, I'm like that. I'm that good. I am that good. And I don't care how many years you have in this league. I don't care how much you're making. I don't care what your contract looks like. I don't care how much guaranteed money the Yankees have, guaranteed your way. We're going to force the Yankees to make some tough decisions, and Luis Gil's done that. I'd argue, we'll see how Clark Schmidt pitches today, but he's done that to an extent, and I'd like to see a lot of these guys who kind of came out of nowhere or didn't have guaranteed spots entering the year continue to push the agenda a little bit and say, hey, you know what? This team doesn't have 26 guys who are balling the hell out right now. Let's force our way up this depth chart. Let's force the Yankees to keep pitching us or keep hitting us, because you can't take Luis Gil out of the rotation right now. You just can't.
How could you, right? Like, and it's actually a really interesting discussion to have when Garrett Cole does come back. Who gets pushed out? You know what I mean? Who's the odd man out here? How do you move Stroman, or how do you move Nestor Cortez or Carlos Rodon or Clark Schmidt out of this rotation? But then again, like, Luis Gil's been probably better than all of them. I mean, you can make a strong argument that he's been better than all of them. Just looking basically at his values, his percentiles, his expected ERA is in the 94th percentile, expected batting average against 0.138, 99th percentile, 92nd percentile hard hit percentage at just 27.9%. This guy has been unbelievable across the board. Now, yes, he's been walking a lot of batters, but at the end of the day, like, it's if he gets that under his under control there, and that's really primarily the fastball, the accuracy issues that he's faced at some points in this season. When he's on and he's striking batters out and he's not walking many guys, he's untouchable, right? Like, you've said this many times, he's straight up just untouchable. In this most recent game against Baltimore, 6.1 innings, 0 earned runs, 2 hits, one walk, and 5 strikeouts. Now, let me give you some insight into how he's been getting better recently in terms of the walks. Over the first 4 games of the season, he had 10, 17 walks. Over his last 2 games, he's only had 3. Now, we got hit around a little bit by Milwaukee, had 6 Ks, gave up 5 earned runs. He gave up 2 home runs in that game, right? So, like, as long as he's not giving home runs up, if he's keeping his home runs low and his walk percentage low, he is going to be one of the best players on this team. You know what I mean? Like, that's really what he has to kind of figure out now. Reducing the walks, not giving up any home runs, which he hasn't done for the most part this year. It was just that one game. So you could say it was an anomaly. He only has given up 6.1% home run to fly ball ratio, but the 5.81 walks per 9 certainly is eye-opening. That's the one thing that we need to obviously correct here. But for the most part, his pitches, the four-seamer, the changeup, and the slider have all been tremendous. Opposing hitters, and look, most batters are pretty solid against fastballs comparably to off-speed pitches. His four-seam fastball is producing a .143 batting average with a 33% whiff rate. How many players do you see with a 33% whiff rate on their four-seam fastball? Like, that is not really heard of for the most part. His four-seamer generates 13% more vertical movement than the average pitcher, 11.7 inches of drop. This thing is dipping, diving. He can touch triple digits with it. Ryan, tell me about his fastball a little bit. I know you know a little bit more than I do. What makes his fastball so special? And the fact that he's getting so many whiffs on it and such a low batting average against it, like, what do you think he goes from here? Like, how does he continue to improve that pitch more so than he already has?
Yeah, so in my opinion, when you look at that four-seam fastball, here are a couple of the characteristics that make it so good. Number 1, generating 17.9 inches of induced vertical break. Now, what is induced vertical break? That's vertical movement, not accounting for the effects of gravity. Why is that important? Having more induced vertical break means that you increase, the rising effect hitters talk about with some fastballs, that high carry pitch. You kind of think Garrett Cole, right? He's kind of a big proponent of the riding fastball. He has a negative 4.4 vertical approach angle. Now, what is vertical approach angle? Again, that's another metric that's really important for talking about that riding effect, right? So vertical approach angle just measures, kind of where you're releasing the ball, where it goes in the plate vertically. And a lower VEA or a flatter VEA, so closer to zero, is better for four-seam fastballs because that means you're locating it up in the zone. You've got that lower release height playing your way. It means that batters are going to have a harder time, getting on top of the ball, properly getting underneath the ball. It's why he doesn't give up a lot of barrels on that pitch. He has a 5.6 foot release height that is shorter than the average pitcher. And it's not like Luis is a small guy. He's 6'2". Like, it's not tall for a pitcher, but he's not short. And a lower release height, again, coupled with that kind of lower arm slot, coupled with the fact that you can throw it up in the zone reliably, it just creates a lot of unique angles and a weird look, and it's hard for hitters to hit. Obviously, it's sitting 96.4 miles per hour. Pretty hard to throw a 96.4 mile per hour fastball that isn't very good. Batters have a 199 expected weight on base average on contact. You talked about, like, league trends, right? Teams are hitting fastballs better than they've ever hit it before. Teams are going away from their fastballs more than they have ever before. I have sat here on this podcast and advocated for various pitchers on this team to get away from their primary fastballs in order to chase strikeouts because the league has made the adjustment. But the one guy I haven't said that about is Luis Gil, because Luis Gil's best pitch is his fastball. His fastball, and I don't mean to say this to sound hyperbolic, he can go band to band with any fastball in the league. You show me a starting pitcher with a four-seam fastball, you say, that four-seam fastball is better than Luis Gil's. And I go, you better be talking about, like, maybe Jared Jones, right? Maybe Garrett Cole, right? Like, we're talking these stuff plus demons, right? Like, these guys that just, like, shouldn't, you just can't imagine. You can't imagine having them on your roster levels of good, right? Like, they're just these special pitchers. I'm going through guys at least 30 innings pitched. Luis Gil's the sixth best fastball stuff plus. Again, the guys ahead of him: Jared Jones, Mackenzie Gore, Freddie Peralta, Hunter Green, Cole Reagans. These are some of the best fastball throwers in the league, right? Garrett Cole wasn't even at 127 last year. Or actually, I think he was at I think he was at 125 last year. When you're talking about a fastball that's better than Garrett Cole's, we're talking about some dominant stuff here. We're talking about something wicked. We're talking about something just, gross. Do you want to use the term overwhelming, overpowering, dominant? Throw any superlative you want out there. It's this blend of just, it gets a lot of ride, it gets a lot of carry. He released it from a lower arm slot, so it's having more of this like riding, it plays into that riding action. Great velo. He's effectively wild. Like, he is very effectively wild. You don't really know where the pitch is going. You just have to pray you guess right. And when you guess right, you have to pray you barrel it. That's been the biggest problem hitters have had. There's a reason why Luis Gil's expected numbers, on StatCast, you might look at, the FIP's higher than the ERA, sure, but that doesn't take into account quality of contact. Luis Gil has a 2.28 expected ERA. He has a 1.38 expected average. They cannot, and I've said this every time I talk about Luis Gil, I don't care who you are, you cannot hit Luis Gil. Yes, you could be Mike Trout behind this camera. It could be Shohei Ohtani behind this camera. You can't hit Luis Gil. You can't. You. I don't care who you are. You can't do it. You can't hit his fastball. You just can't do it. And people could say, well, look at the start against the Brewers. Yeah, he's given up one home run and one double on his fastball. 1-1. Uno y uno. One of two extra base hits, and he's thrown it 336 times. He's gotten swings on it. How many? He's just, you can't hit it. I don't care who you are. I don't care what your resume is. I don't care who you try to say you are. I don't care what your offensive stats are. You can't hit his fastball. That's what makes him so good. If you can reliably stay in the zone, kind of avoid traffic on the base paths, he'll give up a home run once in a blue moon. Just stay away from the base paths, and I think he'll be good.
I agree. And look, this is a pitcher who the Yankees have been waiting a very long time to see. They're finally seeing the maximum potential out of this guy, and it's been a long wait, and he's emerged at the right time, and, everything kind of happens for a reason, so I'm glad that he's been able to fight his way onto this rotation. I'm very curious to see what they're going to do when Garrett Cole comes back, but I just don't see how you drop him out of it. I just don't see a world where you can. I think ultimately let the best man win. Maybe they transition to a six-man rotation just because Garrett Cole's going to need time. I think they're probably going to give him plenty of time to work his way back. I know he's throwing at 89 miles an hour yesterday on the mound. I think he threw 15 pitches, so he's working his way back. He's starting to feel out kind of the process here, but making good momentum obviously is essential for his return. We'll see what happens, guys. Always happy to hear your thoughts below in the YouTube comment section about Luis Gil. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.